The US President Donald Trump has responded to North Korea's latest nuclear test by threatening to cut trade ties with any country that still does business with North Korea. And his defence secretary has warned of a massive military response if the regime targets the US or any of its allies. Pyongyang claims it has successfully detonated a hydrogen bomb, which, if true, would set an alarming new milestone in North Korea's nuclear program. Anne Barker has the latest.
Experts say North Korea's latest nuclear test marks a major step in its goal to develop a nuclear-tipped missile capable of reaching the US mainland. Japan's meteorological agency says the size of the earthquake caused by yesterday's blast was 10 times larger than earthquakes caused by previous tests. And some experts say there's now strong evidence to suggest the rogue state has either mastered the development of a hydrogen bomb or is getting very close, though others remain sceptical. Lassina Zerbo heads the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organisation.
We try not to speculate whether it's a hydrogen bomb or not. For us, a nuclear test explosion shouldn't happen at all, whether it's hydrogen or not. But having said this, the physics of the event that we're talking about today seem to indicate a much larger event than the one from 2016 and before.
The United States is again weighing its response to the latest nuclear provocation. US Defence Secretary Jim Mattis has warned that any threat to the US or its territories will be met with a massive military response.
We have many military options, and the President wanted to be briefed on each one of them. We made clear that we have the ability to defend ourselves and our allies, South Korea and Japan, from any attack, and our commitments among the allies are ironclad. Any threat to the United States or its territories, including Guam, or our allies, will be met with a massive military response, a response both effective and overwhelming.
Though President Donald Trump has refused to be drawn on whether the US would attack North Korea.
Mr. President, will you attack North Korea?
Telling reporters only, we'll see. Instead, Donald Trump has warned of even tougher sanctions against North Korea and its allies, namely China, which most international leaders believe can and should do more to put pressure on Pyongyang. On Twitter, President Trump warned the US was now considering stopping all trade with any country that does business with North Korea. And Australia's Foreign Minister Julie Bishop has appealed to China to cut all trade with the rogue regime.
What we're seeking to do is block North Korea's access to finance so that we stop it funding its illegal ballistic missile and nuclear test programs. China is the major source of finance for North Korea. It's its major trading partner. But China is part of this tough sanctions regime and backed the 5th of August sanctions imposed by the UN Security Council.
In reality, cutting US trade with China could hurt the US as much as it might bring pressure on North Korea, and in turn would hurt other US allies, including Australia.
Clearly, China and the United States are major trading partners for Australia, so we want to avoid any kind of trade war between China and the United States, but we certainly back the United States' concerns and the concerns of China that North Korea should be prevented from accessing the finance that it's using for its illegal weapons program.
More likely in the immediate future is an escalation in sanctions against Pyongyang. The US is already drafting new measures likely to be discussed as early as tomorrow at the UN Security Council, which could target North Korea's national airline and textile exports. Already, European leaders, including Britain's Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, have indicated their support.
We think that the sanctions route still holds potential. China is responsible for 90% of North Korea's trade, and North Korea has only 6 months of oil supplies left. There is scope to continue to put pressure on the regime.
There's no guarantee, of course, that even tougher sanctions would produce the required result, or, as was the case with the August sanctions, simply enrage Pyongyang even further and lead to more nuclear tests. And Germany's Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel has warned of a nuclear arms race if Pyongyang is allowed to continue its missile program. It's a tremendous provocation, but it also shows the North Koreans are serious about developing nuclear weapons. He says they'll succeed in a few years. This will be led to South Korea, Japan, other nations nations in the region. They'll all acquire nuclear weapons as well, and also in other known crisis regions such as in Africa. Countries there will also try to acquire nuclear weapons, making the world a dangerous place, also for us Europeans.
Auch für uns Europäer.
And for its part, South Korea has today carried out a live-fire exercise intended to simulate a strike on North Korea's nuclear test site, with surface-to-surface ballistic missiles and fighter jets from the Army and Air Force hitting targets off South Korea's east coast.
Anne Barker reporting.